Brothers and sisters, today, the Feast of the Transfiguration, we focus on the majesty of Jesus, a majesty that gets revealed to Peter, James, and John in a very special way as Jesus is transfigured on Mount Tabor before them. And next to him appear Moses and Elijah. It's a reminder to us all that God is very good in giving us graces that we need in order to persevere in the tasks that we have. Peter, James, and John received this very special, I wouldn't call it an apparition, this very special, intimate time with Jesus in his glory, because Jesus had just been speaking about the time that he would be going to the cross and dying. And so as to strengthen Peter, James, and John for the passion, Jesus allows himself to be transfigured and for Peter, James, and John to see Moses and Elijah and to hear the voice of the Father. It's very important because in the lives of the saints and in our own lives, we all have moments in which God seems to be so tangible, so real, so right before us in a way. And yet, we know that that's not all the time. There are times where things are difficult, where there's the cross. And yet, those special moments we want to keep in mind as a way to keep us going, as a way to remember that God has given us a particular task, a particular mission in our lives to live out. One example of someone who had this kind of transfiguration moment in her life is Saint Mother Teresa. She recounts that on September 7th, when she was taking the train to Darjeeling, the Lord appeared to her in a vision. It is not one that she could necessarily see in front of her, but rather in her mind, an intellectual vision. And it was one in which she was being called in a particular way to found an order of Indian nuns to serve the poorest of the poor. And the Lord would go on and confirm this, and then Mother Teresa would go through the passion of having the dark night of the soul for over 50 years. But we can imagine the grace that God gives in giving one these kinds of moments in order to strengthen one. And brothers and sisters, we don't need to lament if we've never had this kind of moment, because we want to remember that we don't need a special revelation. We don't need to see Jesus appear before us in order to know his presence and to know the strength that he has, because he comes to us here. This is our Mount Tabor, here at this Eucharist. Here Jesus is glorified before us in the Eucharist. In his body, blood, soul, and divinity, we encounter the crucified and risen Jesus. We may not see him dazzling white, and yet the invisible is still present. Jesus is still dazzling before us. And he asks us to have the spiritual eyes to see this and to be drawn into this great mystery so that we have strength for the task of our daily lives. And so we ask the Lord today, Jesus, we ask you that you may strengthen us as you strengthen Peter, James, and John to be about the business that you have given to each of us, that as we receive you here in this Eucharist, we may indeed be given the graces that we need to live out our daily crosses and our daily joys. Amen.